everybody. Welcome to As the Pages Turn with my name is Mia, and this is my lovely co-host, Crystal.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to be talking about a couple of subjects today. But our first subject is about Barnes & Noble, which, you know, the bookstore we all love.
Yes, so we love them except when they make us mad.
Except when they make us mad, which they did. They made a lot of people mad.
Yeah.
So today's topic is about the Oathbound release by Tracy Deonn. And this is a third book in her Legendborn series. It was very anticipated. And it was hyped up by Barnes & Noble because they had talked about how it was going to be a special edition through them. They had sticker packs. It had an awesome cover. I believe it had nice little artwork on the pages, had a little bit of everything. They put out a couple of press releases. They had a party for it. They did a little bit of everything. But Crystal, what do you think went wrong?
What went wrong is, where the hell is the book?
That's the question. Where did the books go? So this release happened on March 4th. And there were, within the first week, even the second week, there were a lot of TikToks started popping up, I should say. So let me just quick restate. So we're talking about Oathbound by Tracy Deonn, and this third book release was, again, it was anticipated by a lot of book talkers. It was anticipated by a lot of people who love young adults, and they put out press releases. They had a blog party. I think they even had a party with the author and a group of her friends, because I saw some pictures about it. But then we start getting the TikToks popping up. And the book talkers who were waiting for this and wanting it were not happy. Because what turned up was that at a lot of Barnes & Noble stores, and this wasn't just, Crystal, this wasn't just one store. This wasn't two stores. This was several different stores across the United States where there were either not books, no advertisements. It was hard to find the book. In some cases, the staff didn't even really know about the book. And don't worry, we'll talk about our secret Barnes & Noble source who had some commentary on that. And book talkers were not happy because there was several book talkers, Danae, What's Up Sissy, Kaylin Nost. There were, hold on, I have a list.
Yeah, we can get to it as we get deeper in, but yeah.
Yeah. So basically, there were a lot of the TikTokers, and they were filming because, you know, book talkers, we love some video of books. So they were going into these stores and they were trying to find this new book. Some of them went like 2 or 3 days before. Some of them went 2 or 3 days after. And in two or three of the videos, people had gone a week later. And the results, a lot of them, I think there was only one video I saw, Crystal, where there were actually books on the front table, you know, where the powerhouse books are.
Where there was to be.
Yes, with advertisements and staff who knew what was going on. That was one video. Every other video, there was something missing. So it was a lot. It was kind of a mess. And there's a lot of theories on why. But what a lot of the TikTokers said is that they, like, What's Up Sissy talked about how there was a table and there was sticker packs at one store. But then she went to a second one before, her first store she went to before the release didn't have any advertisements. Some of the staff didn't know what was going on. Then she went to her second Barnes & Noble store after the release. And it had a table and it had sticker packs. So it was like two different stores and it might have had one or two advertisements. But again, it's two of the same store, two Barnes & Noble with missing items or not, like no advertisement, like stuff was missing. And then
I'll watch it up too.
And then we had, what was it? And then another one. Danae talked about how 3 days after the release, she went to the young adult section, couldn't find it. They did have actually in that store, they had the previous books. They had the first and second book, but they did not have the third book at all. And so then when she went to the staff to ask for, by the way, as we said, the exclusive Barnes and Noble release with all the shebang and all the shiny stuff and everything a reader wants, and the store talked about how they didn't get any shipment of books. None.
Well, that's not suspicious at all.
Not right. Not so. Like, where's the books at? Like, this is an anticipated book. Like, why are you not going to have any books? What are you talking about?
Like, I get them screwing up for a nobody who they weren't invested in, but this is like an author with a lot of cred and has had their books, I believe, in their store before. So what are they getting at?
They've done, and in the press releases, they talked about how they've done Barnes and Noble exclusives with her before. So this is now, you're on, but this is not book number 1. This is not book number 2. This is book number 3, and this is an exclusive Barnes and Noble copy that is like tricked out. It's got pages. It's got a special cover. It's got, I think it was a limited edition cover. It's got a sticker pack. Like, it literally has all this stuff, and you don't have any of it? Like, none of it.
Yeah, and I was looking over here at the Reddit feed, and they have somebody who their name on here is Equator Grimm. They were talking about how lately their store has been getting everything like ridiculously late, and they're chiming in on the controversy because they said they've been seeing some stuff on the TikToks, and they feel like some people are coming in there with the intention of being mad because it's like they're saying they're finding the only book. But even with that, people making videos like that, and I'm bringing that up because, you know, of every controversy, there are going to be a few people who might be looking to complain. They're saying it still doesn't change anything because there are still Barnes and Nobles that don't, even though they have some Barnes and Nobles that they're seeing with the table display, they're apparently seeing some that don't have that, a lot of them that don't have this display. And it's not just this criticism shouldn't be limited to just Barnes and Noble messing up, because they're like, Simon Schuster, who I believe published the book, is a major publisher. How on earth do they, you know, mess up like this? Because, you know, they're a big time and Barnes and Noble's big time, but both of them messing up and Simon Schuster not releasing a statement or saying, hey, wait, something's going on here.
Well, and that's a good point, Crystal, because, and one of the things you and me have talked about before when we've talked about this, when it first happened, was the lack of statements, was the fact that there was no statement from Barnes and Noble. There was no statement from no statements from anybody. Like, they acted like this wasn't even a big deal. And the thing is, this popped up enough on Book Talk that there were like 3 or 4 different articles done about it too. So it's not like it was 1 or 2 people who were just commenting. It was a couple of people, it was more than a couple of people is what I should say. And so it's like the lack of displays, the lack of advertisements,
the lack of a response from both the publisher and the store.
Yeah. And like one of the TikTokers, Danielle, who I didn't mention earlier, she went 2 p.m. on release day and the books were still on the cart, Crystal. Like, had not been unpacked, not on a table, no stickers, no nothing, just on a cart.
That's weird. Like, back in the day with Harry Potter, I understood why they weren't on the table on release day immediately, because people were diving for that book, but still, they were having people ready to go and saying, line up, we have the books right here.
Yeah,
but
right.
This case is like nothing.
There was nothing at this one, and that was a different TikToker. And then we had another one, Francis, who went, and he's got one of those beautiful big Barnes and Noble that we all kind of want, but we all don't get, because depending on where you live, you don't have the huge ones with 3 floors and all decked out, right? So Francis went to one, his big Barnes and Noble, no advertisements at the front of the store. There was nothing on the first floor, nothing on the second floor. He finally found it on the third floor, which maybe that might have been a young, because one of the things that was mentioned in the conversation was that some of the people had said, well, you know, it was in the young adult section, which sometimes gets kind of tucked out of the way in Barnes and Noble. So, which, you know, is a good point. The young adult section's kind of it's not really in the front with everything else. but like Francis had to go up like 3 floors and finally found it towards the back. But then one of the points he brought up, and this was brought up in a lot of different videos, was
Mm-hmm.
that the Fourth Wing advertisements were everywhere. And when
Yeah.
was Fourth Wing released?
I
January
think in
21st.
January.
Yes, January 21st. And you still have displays and advertisements and all this kind of stuff for Fourth Wing. But then this is a March release. This is literally a March release of a Black author who has this awesome series that a lot of people want.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you don't have any advertisements. You don't have a display. You have nothing at the front. Nothing.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this Reddit post by Educational Fly, and they're talking about how they sold 80% of their stock on Wednesday, but even with what's going on, they didn't really have the book, and they're finding it kind of sad that their YA display was not in the front of the store. They were saying it was somewhere in the back where you couldn't really find it.
Yeah. And that's a good point because and we, as I mentioned earlier, we have a friend who's a Barnes and Noble secret source. So we're not going to say their name because we don't want them to get in trouble. But they have worked at Barnes and Noble for I think at least a couple of years, they had told us. And they had kind of told us, they gave us a breakdown because we said, hey, because me and Crystal, we love to research, we love to dive into stuff. And
Yeah,
we
we
asked
don't
her,
just get anything.
right? So we asked her, we said, hey, like, how does Barnes and Noble handle these releases? And what our lovely secret source said was that they usually get promotional materials 1 to 2 weeks in advance. They usually have a cart loaded with the books. They have pre-order numbers. And then the morning of, they talked about how the morning of the release, they come in 2 hours before opening to like rearrange the center aisle, make sure that stuff is ready to go because they have releases
Yeah.
on Tuesdays, right? That's kind of the Barnes and Noble thing.
Yeah, they made
And
sure to come in
so
early, have everything set up.
so and I think it's a valid question of because Simon and Schuster is the publisher. They're the ones
Mm-hmm.
who send out a lot of the books, and I'm assuming they're probably the ones who did the sticker packs too.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said. There's probably some blame here to be shared. Where if educational, as you mentioned, Educational Fly, if their store didn't get the materials or enough materials, that's not that store's fault.
Yeah.
That's on the publisher. But I think an interesting question here is that this was a Barnes and Noble exclusive release. This was something that their corporate paid for. They put money into. They had a special cover. They had special cover art, page art, and I'm not sure if the stickers were the publisher or them, but a lot of this sounds like we should be looking at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, because also I'm just feeling because we should be looking hard at Barnes and Noble because they're talking about exclusive copy from the Reddit threads I've been looking at. It's like they're also saying look at some other stores too because they have them where they had a bunch of them and then when they already ordered more, they weren't getting them. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering what is happening on both ends.
Yeah. And I think and here's the thing, it's like because this is a Barnes and Noble exclusive, it's up to them to put in the order, right? They're the
Yeah,
ones who know how their market's going to react, assuming that they pay attention to Book Talk, which by the way, if you're a bookstore, you should be paying attention to what Book Talk is doing because Book
that
Talk
is
has
true.
driven so many sales. It is insane, right?
That's why we still have Barnes and Noble for pity's sake.
Right? I mean,
They
there's
would
a
have
lot
made
of
that store go the way of Borders.
because Book Talk, I mean, but like, I want to say readers tried to save Barnes and Noble, but I want to say Book Talk also had a huge part in that because Book Talk, and I've kind of said this before because I'm a theater kid from before. Book Talk is kind of the new theater for readers and nerdy people who love books and kind of everybody who loves books. It is
Yeah.
the new theater for people because
Yes,
you have
where it's at.
videos,
It's like,
you
what
have
book is everybody reading? Ask Book Talk.
right? And I mean, think about Crystal, like, and we're both authors. Me and Crystal are both authors who are on Amazon. We're both independent authors. And think about all the swag that has come out now with books. Like even 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't have, stickers and coloring books and candles and this. I mean, there's so much swag with books now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Barnes and Noble put some serious time and money into this. So then that leaves the question of, why didn't you guys, did they not order enough materials, or did Simon and Schuster just not send enough?
And why aren't they saying anything? Because we've been checking up to see, well, maybe there be a response. There has not been a response to what's been going on. All I've been seeing is a bunch of angry people on TikTok and Reddit complaining about the book not being there and having a hard time getting it.
I know. And it is. And the date today is March 29th, right? So this came out the 4th. Within the first 2 weeks is when a lot of book talkers were posting videos, and they were pissed, right? Because a lot of them love Tracy Deonn. And so it's like, this is the 29th. I still have yet to see a Barnes and Noble post. I still have yet to see Simon and Schuster. I don't see anybody. And,
we thought there'd be a response by now, and all true.
Right. And I get why Tracy Deonn isn't saying anything, because not her responsibility. She's the author. She's not in charge of all these people sending out her stuff. But she don't want to mess with the money. So I don't blame her at all for not saying shit. But
because if she says something, it could violate her contract, and that would be
a
whole kettle of dog poop you don't want to get involved in.
Especially because Barnes and Noble has a lot of power in the publishing field. They have a lot of especially again, this is a Barnes and Noble exclusive. How are you telling me that this is something you paid for the artwork? And we know, me and Crystal know how expensive it is to get exclusive covers and page art. And this is not cheap money, Crystal.
It's not cheap. I know it's not cheap. If it was cheap, I would have a lot more cover art. But instead of having to budget for it every time.
And page designs, I mean,
oh my goodness, that's expensive. I'm working
There's
on
so
my
many.
own.
We know a lot of awesome book talkers
in my books.
Right.
And I'm looking at how much it'll cost for me to get those type of page designs and stuff. It is a lot.
Yes, it is not cheap at all. And so you're telling me you invested all this money in this author. You went for this special design. And then on the day of the release, you don't have displays, you don't have her on the center table, you don't have the sticker packs, you don't even, and in one case, one of the TikToks I watched, they didn't even have again, the books were on the cart. The books they weren't even on a table. They weren't anywhere. They were on a freaking cart.
Why?
I don't
If people want to give you money for it, why are you leaving it there?
Right.
Are you allergic to money?
Are you allergic to money?
But if so, give it to me.
And so I think we've kind of come to the second question. So that's the first question of who bears the responsibility, which is Barnes and Noble or Simon and Schuster. Who messed up here? Was it the publishers? Did they not send enough material? Or was it Barnes and Noble not checking in on their stores, not getting the displays? And like you said, one of your Redditors said that they didn't get enough books. So if they're not getting enough books, they can't expect it to have them out there, right?
Yeah.
So is it them, or is it, now we come to the second question, which is, and this is a little bit, this is kind of the delicate question. Well, maybe not delicate. It's the necessary question, I should say. Let's talk about one of the issues that's been mentioned is the race of the author. And she's a Black author. She obviously third book that is very popular, and I think me and Crystal, especially Crystal, knows how hard it is for BIPOC authors to get published.
It is. They will try to hide our books, everything. It'll be even if you're looking for, let's say you're looking for a Black author to buy their book specifically off of Amazon or a lot of these things. A lot of times, a lot of Black authors, unless you are in the news and really popping off, your person will have to dig just to find them. And that's if they're lucky, because they're hiding a lot of Black authors. I remember one time I was watching a YouTuber who wanted to feature a few Black indie authors on her channel. And she was complaining because she had to dig very hard just to find two of them. She said every time she typed in the number one people it would show for indie authors are either white men and white women. It would not
Yeah.
show Black people in the author realm. It was very hard for her to even find it.
Yeah. And so that's a definite question here because as has been mentioned by a lot of these book talkers, they Onyx Storm, which is again, to be fair, Rebecca Yarros is a huge author now. Her
Yeah, we're
stuff
not
is also
criticizing her work in
no,
any way
not
here.
no, we're not criticizing her because she has been working her butt off to get her books out. And there's some other issues with her as an author, but those are separate. Like she's been
Yeah.
working, she's been getting out there, right? But the thing is, her
Mm-hmm.
book came out January 21st. And you're telling me, and yes, again, she is super famous, but you still have her displays up, but yet you have a now popular Black author who has been getting traction. I mean, why else would Barnes and Noble make an exclusive edition with her if she wasn't in the mainstream of book talk? And then,
Yeah.
but somehow you don't even have, and I think that was a big point is there were hardly any displays. That was a common theme. That was the biggest thing I saw that book talkers were upset about. There was no advertisement. There was no
Yeah, it
displays.
feels like intentional sabotage of this because, people get angry and they really want the book. And sometimes people will get so mad, they'll be like, forget it.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and that I think that question needs to be asked because I don't think we're trying to sit here and say Barnes and Noble is racist, though.
We're
Rumor
trying to
has
find
it
out
there
what
have been some
happened first,
issues,
and then we'll accuse them of what they've done after we find out what the hell happened. All they've
right?
left us with is speculation because they have not made a statement. And
They
I
haven't
would
said anything.
criticize them alone, but also the publisher has not made a statement. And I'm like, well, why haven't you guys said anything if
Yeah,
people are angry? What are you up to?
yeah. And I think part of this question is that it is so hard for BIPOC authors to get noticed, to get traditionally published. It is only in the last 5 or 10 years that they have even really that they've been able to get their books to a traditional publisher because as we know, publishers control what comes out and they
Yep.
decide what everybody must like and what everybody, the trends, all that kind of
What
nonsense, right?
everybody basically will read, but we'll get into that and then later complain about Disney in another episode.
Right? So it's like you put all this money into this, and I would think, especially because Barnes and Noble exclusive edition, how
Yeah.
did you not have displays for that? How did you not have even one? Because again, a lot of these book talkers said there were no displays, there were nothing in the front. Not, I mean, obviously her books weren't were not on a lot of the front tables, but you
Yeah,
had
and
no
speaking of the front
displays.
tables, they some people did bring up, if it was somewhere on Reddit, I can't find the thread, but they did bring up how with a lot of YA, they don't put it on the front table, they'll put it on a back table
Yeah.
somewhere. But even with that, this is a popular author. In general, when their book would come out, it wouldn't matter if it was YA or not, it would be in the front.
Yeah. So it's again, and it's a new release. Our
Yeah.
source basically said if it's a new release, it should be on the front table, whether it's YA or not. And
Yeah.
I've seen other YA books on Barnes and Noble front table. So for some of these stores to not have that, to not have the books, to not have the displays, and I think one of the TikToks, and I couldn't find the name of the person, but they mentioned how they found the display in the back. I think theirs was on a second floor somewhere, and it was like a small ass table, and there was like one little, not even a display crystal. It was like one of those, cards you put up with like QR codes. There was like a
Oh,
card up with
that
the
thing we have to
author.
use for events when we run out of books.
Yes. Yeah, that's what it was. So
Yeah.
it's like there was one of those and I guess two books on the table. So it's like, but where's the signs? Where is Eddie? Like you guys ordered this. You paid money for it.
You have people coming expecting to get an exclusive physical book, really,
Yes.
one they can hold in their hand. If they were looking for the ebooks, they would have just stayed at home. And you're
Right.
making it look like it's there, and people are trucking out for it, but then it's not there. What's up?
Exactly. And I know that there were some people who were like, oh, it's book talk getting in a tizzy. This is a YA author. She might be popular, but she's not super popular. And it's,
Oh boy.
maybe that's why she wasn't. And that, valid point. Maybe she's not super popular. But again, as we've talked about, book talk is a driving force for a lot of these stores. And
Yeah.
again, Barnes and Noble paid for this. They paid for this exclusive edition. So at the very, okay, I understand why maybe other, like Books a Million, I understand why other stores might not have advertised or might not have had it everywhere, but this is your own edition. Like, why
Yeah.
are you not pimping it out? Because don't you want to make money?
I think that's where the hard root of all this is, because we'll keep going back to this, but at the end of the day, this was supposed to be their exclusive edition of the book. They
Yeah.
advertised that they had the exclusive edition of the book. They got people specifically come to the store because they said they had an exclusive edition. Like you mentioned earlier, they had an interview with the author, a party thing to advertise that they had this exclusive edition of this anticipated book. But why are you even doing that at all? Because the
Yeah.
main question is, why do that at all if you are not going to have it? Because that
Yeah.
feels like false information is being spread. And then you have to ask, well, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why the question of race of author came up in the first place, because people are like, you have Rebecca Yarros, who is a very popular white author, whose displays are still, I mean, I actually want to say they're still up in my Barnes and Noble, and have been up since January 21st. But then you have a popular black author who you can't find a display, you can't find a book in some cases. You have staff who don't even know, like, it's supposed to be there and it just got released. And it's like, okay, yeah, she might not be as like super mainstream as Rebecca Yarros. Maybe that's an unfair, comparison. But
But
at the
doesn't change
same
it.
time, like, why are you not putting more into it? Especially as you have, I mean, I don't know if there was a Barnes and Noble exclusive Onyx Storm edition. I don't think there was. I think there was like a limited edition, but I want to say that was through Target, actually. Um, and but again, like, look at Target. Target put tons of money into their exclusive Onyx Storm edition. So how are you not putting money into your edition? And that's why we come to, is it because you just flubbed this whole thing up, or is it because maybe you guys didn't care as much because it's a black author and maybe there's something there?
Maybe, because all we can really say now is maybe, 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 because we have not seen a statement from anyone. We have not
No.
heard anything. It's been absolute silence. And right now in this situation, silence is not our friend. We want to hear what your reasoning was.
Yeah.
Was this like a world major misstep with maybe your computers or something, and
Yeah.
something just got really screwed up? What happened?
Yeah.
Because all these companies have left us, Barnes and Noble, especially since it was their exclusive edition, all you have left us with is pure speculation as to what happened. And
Yeah.
why won't you come out and clarify it? Because they can say people shouldn't assume things, but all we're being left with is assumption. And that's not
Exactly.
good, especially when they were the ones who advertised it. They were the ones who said, oh, it's going to be here. They were the
Yeah.
ones who told her fans all of this and got people coming out for it, and then just didn't
Yep.
put anything up. That is
Yeah.
weird from them because, like you said, our source has even pointed out that it's just above and beyond weird for them to do. They never do that. It doesn't matter the grade book, because I did find those Reddits that said, well, why it gets tough to the back. But in general, when it is a big time author release and the stores are alerted of it, it's supposed to be in the front. It's supposed
Yeah.
to be ready. Decoration stuff is up, because Barnes and Noble, because our source even said Barnes and Noble does not go out of their way to advertise all this stuff and then not have the book in the front. But this time they did. So we
Yeah.
got to wonder, well, what the heck happened?
Exactly. And I think that is a key issue because they haven't said anything. And, obviously, I mean, I I have the suspicious paranoid mind. So like my first thought is the reason why they're not talking to about it is they hope it'll die down. They hope
Yeah.
that, because media moves so fast and there are so many topics, especially right now. We'll get on that on
Yeah.
our next episode.
We're gonna rant about that later.
We'll do that on a different. We got our politics episode, people. There's so many things coming out that I think it's the fact that Barnes and Noble is just hoping nobody keeps talking about it. Like, because to be fair, half the reason we're trying to like get this podcast, this first episode out, is because this is, topics go so fast.
Yeah.
You talk about it for 5 minutes and then, oh my God, it's the next one. Oh my God, it's the next one. So,
And we need to remember all the stuff going on, because if they are trying to just be like, oh, everybody forget about it, we should not forget about it, because what if this happens? What if this has happened before? I don't know if it's happened before, because we haven't had a chance to really look deeper into seeing how many times this has happened, because it's not Barnes and Noble styles, combined with what if this happens again? Because then that's like, are we going to let them to continue to get away with this? Because that's not a good thing.
Well, and is this a trend? Because when I was talking about this with some other people, they had mentioned that there's been issues before with Barnes and Noble and other authors who were not white and having problems. And I don't know that I got a whole lot of specifics, but if this is a trend of you're not going to treat the BIPOC authors the same as the white authors, that is a problem. That's not okay. Because BIPOC authors have it hard. They do not have it easy when it comes to getting books out there. And at the very least, if you're going to make a special edition of this book, you need to give respect to the author you're doing the deal with. And Tracy Deonn is a damn good author. She has a huge following. She has a lot of that. Again, a lot of this came from Book Talk, of these questions and videos, because people were wanting this book. They wanted to go, and a lot of them were actually upset there wasn't a midnight release party, which again, she's not like Harry Potter big yet. So, hey, I get it if there's not a midnight release party. I can even understand that. But these Book Talk people, these readers, they wanted this book. So there, you have demand, you have a special edition. So then where is the flub up? And why are you not giving the respect to this author to even and again, the silence issue, at the very least, you guys could have put out a 5-second, Twitter, we're not calling it the other bullshit name. You could have put out a 5-second Twitter statement saying, oh, hey, we heard that there were some issues at some stores. We're going to look into it. They didn't even do that. They're just pretending nothing happened. If we don't say anything about it, Crystal, it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, we're going to keep saying about it. Why? Because we're a couple of loudmouths that want people's eyes on the issues.
Okay, look, you're not supposed to tell the viewers that we're loudmouths. They're supposed to figure that out. That's a secret, Crystal. Shh.
Okay, we can cut that out. I can say the point is, y'all need to keep your eyes on the issues, because if you want stuff like this to stop happening, we need to keep raising our voices. We can't let them think, oh, we forgot about it.
Exactly, because if, and again, like I said, this has died down a little bit online, but I think that's why I was saying, I don't care if it takes us a little longer to get this done, because I think it's important that we talk about that this happened there. And it wasn't just one or two stores. These were stores all over America. These were in different states. So clearly this is either a Barnes and Noble Corporation, F up, or it's Simon and Schuster didn't send out enough materials. So what is it? Or both. I mean, honestly, I feel like it's kind of because what it sounds like to me is it's a both. But then why aren't you guys even a basic? And I feel for the author, because she can't really say anything in this, right? She says anything, she's going to lose money, and that, nobody wants her to lose money. But she can't say anything. But then that's why we're here. We're gonna try to find these issues where it's okay, you think we're gonna let this pass? We're not. We're not letting this pass.
We will keep talking about it till we get some answers.
Exactly. This is not. You had stores that didn't have displays. You had stores that didn't have books. You had stores that hadn't even unpacked books. So
stores that didn't even know what it was.
right? And then there were some of the store people, and again, I'm not going to blame them because, you know, they work there and it's up to their management. But again, that goes back to a Barnes and Noble corporate issue. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
Because according to our source, they are supposed to know about this stuff beforehand. They are supposed to have all these promotional materials 1 or 2 weeks beforehand. They are supposed to be prepping the store like 2 hours before it opens. Like, they are supposed to be on top of this. And what it sounds like is they were just like, oh, well, here's a few things, just put whatever wherever. And then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's just like, what's going on here? Something is not right.
Yeah. And so, you know, you can, Barnes and Noble and Simon, and like, you guys can be quiet, but I think the fact is, if you keep doing this kind of thing where you, and again, to be fair, they don't flub up a lot of releases, but it's just very interesting that this release that was anticipated by a lot of book talk people, a lot of readers wanted this, and it happens to be a Black author, and you guys just conveniently fuck it up and it's no big deal. There's a question there. There's a question. Okay, so I think we talked this out, Crystal.
Yeah, I think we've said everything that needs to be said. In other words, Barnes and Noble, Simon & Schuster, y'all better give us some more information on this. We're going to be looking.
Or apologize to the author, because I think, honestly, I feel like at the very least, they should be telling her, we're sorry, we fucked up your release. Because, you know, I would be sad as an author if my readers came to me and said, hey, we tried to find your book. We tried to find you. We didn't know where you were. It was like Siberia there. Where were you?
That's true.
Anyways, I think we do have another topic we're going to talk about. It's this Daddy's Little Toy issue, which I have a lot of rage. I think Crystal has. We have a lot of rage.
We can't even talk to our book talk friends about it without everybody getting mad. But
I know. So we're going to take a few minutes.
We're going to first. Let's take a little quick break, and then we're going to get into this because we need to collect our emotions because this made us really mad.
Take a deep breath and try to, as I like to put on happy horns on a book talk video when I'm talking about serious subject. So imagine happy horns and try to stay happy during that issue. But anyways, we're going to take a few minutes. We will be right back. All right. Okay, we're back.
We're here.
We're back. And this issue. I think I need happy horns, maybe a squishy.
You better get a squishy because you're going to need it for this.
I got to get a squishy.
This is a subject we've been talking about even with some of our friends on the World of the Book Talks. And they can barely keep it together when we talk about this. But this is an issue we need to bring up.
Okay.
Especially considering the realm of dark romance and stuff like that. We feel like this should be talked about because even with stuff like that, there is a line you do not cross. And we've got to get into an author who crossed that line.
Oh, yeah. So we are talking about Tori Woods, and I think Lauren Ashley is an alias of hers. I'm not for sure on that, but I know for sure Tori Woods. And she wrote a book called Daddy's Little Toy. And I think both me and Crystal have been huge supporters in book talk of the dark romance taboo authors because they get a hard life, right?
They do. I mean, we have a lot of friends who are dark romance taboo authors. They get a lot of criticism for being dark romance, but they tell people, hey, this is a dark romance book. It goes to certain extremes. If you're uncomfortable with that, then don't read my book. It's for people who like that kind of story. And they get a lot of grief for that. But even when it came to Tori Woods doing this, they were very mad because yes, dark romance hits certain extremes, but there are just some things you do not do. There are some things that are just not okay to put in a story.
Okay, so let's
get to what the thing is.
Well, let's get to the controversy. So the controversy about this book is that Tori Woods wrote Daddy's Little Toy. And in this book, and again, I have not read it. I will not read it. And if I had to read it, there would be fire involved. Anyways, in this book, she wrote about a 29-year-old male character who, it sounds like, groomed this child, let's say child, because that's what she was.
Yeah, well, that's when he said he fell in love with her when she was 3.
I know. Okay, so a lot of the controversy comes from the fact that in the book, the male character is talking about the fact that he liked her longer than Lee, because so they get together when she's 18 and I think he's 29 at that point. So whatever age is before. So but he in the book he mentions that he was basically eyeballing her since she was mother freaking 3.
And she's his
Three.
daughter's friend. Let's not forget that. His daughter's friend,
Oh,
he was eyeballing
yeah,
since she was a 3-year-old baby.
yeah, yeah. And
I'll
so
let her be legal when they get together.
obviously this made a lot of, because here's the thing, dark romance and taboo authors write about a lot of subjects. They write about all of these heavy duty things, but here's the thing, they have trigger warnings, and a lot of them go about it with respect. They talk about, they do their books that are fictional on these subjects. And by the way, let's, as a side mention, a lot of times, especially taboo authors, have a very hard time getting their stuff published on Amazon. So they
Yeah.
have a hard life. They do not have it easy. They are the first book talkers to get come after by anybody. And what I mean, like, look at the Call Me Chris situation. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff where these authors get a lot of crap because of the subjects they write and how hardcore they go. But let's break this down. You, as an author, Miss Tori Woods, you chose to write a book about a man with a child who's taking care of this other child and notices her sexually at the age of 3. The age of that is not
3.
taboo. That is
3.
not dark romance. That is the P word. The P word.
Yeah. That is, I need to find you and call county on you. That is, I'm about to do a whole lot more than smack you. I'm about to pull the pew pew out.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, do not pass go straight to jail, ma'am. Go straight to jail. So this blew up. This blew up on, like, the minute people started reading it and realizing like what they were reading, that it was not a dark romance. It was not a taboo. It was I'm going to call it a disgusting piece of trash, because that's the only nice thing I can say about it.
It was basically rated as full-on child porn.
Yeah, it was. It was rated as a very disgusting, like, readers were pissed. And these are dark romance taboo readers. These are people who know what they're reading. They know ahead of time. They are prepared, like, they are prepared for the heavy subjects in these books.
And let me also get into this, because this is something else we should probably bring up. This is how bad it was, people. 1 is called Daddy's Little Toy. 2, you got a man who's apparently been romantically in love with a woman since she was 3, which is messed up. And 4, if you saw the cover is designed to look like cute little children's blocks spelling out the name in bright colors.
Yeah.
The author even has, I believe the author's little blurb for the book, or it's a blurb she wrote that's in the book, says, "I will never look at my children the same way
so
again."
That was the dedication. So then this blew up. So this blew up on Book Talk. And then the second part that came out, and I'm not sure of the sources of this, because this kind of exploded everywhere. And I did try to find the original sources for this, but I couldn't. But it
may
sounds
have been
like
removed. Some of our friends mentioned that a lot of people bringing certain things up within the book, because some reviewers put it in.
Yes.
It was all removed, so it may have been removed.
It's something where it was either beta readers who brought it up, or it was somebody who saw it before. Because, by the way, after the backlash of this, right, she started deleting stuff. She took the book off Amazon because people were livid. She took it down. She was trying to erase stuff. She was blocking comments. She did everything but try to stand on her head and pretend that she didn't see what was going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So what came up, the second part of this, is that there was a dedication that got brought up that she put in her book, as she would never look at her kids the same way. That was the first dedication, Crystal. There was the second one.
Oh, and I didn't hear about the second one. What happened there?
So the first one made my blood boil. Like, literally, I was like, I'm very concerned. I am very concerned as a woman, as an author, and as a parent. you're saying this? Excuse, like, do you have kids? Because if you had kids,
She's
somebody
got
needs to
kids,
call the
and I
popo.
am very concerned that she wrote that.
Yeah, exactly. So there was a second dedication that got mentioned that she must have changed it to. And the second dedication was, something about wiggles and something about how they were, I don't know, enticing or something, like wiggle, like, oh, the wiggles, like I'll never look at the wiggles the same. I don't know. So like
I
it
think
sounds
it
like she
was I'll never look at the
changed
Wiggles the same.
it.
I doubt I didn't hear that one, but I think somebody mentioned that to me, and I was
Yes.
like, "Dear Lord Almighty."
And and people may not know, if you don't have kids, you may not know what the wiggles are. So when kids are like hyper or they need to go to the bathroom or any of this stuff, right? They get the wiggles. Like they'll just start wiggling, shaking around. Like that's just their expression because they're hyper little children. Like that's what they do. They wiggle in
It's
their
what
seat
kids
kind of
do.
thing. Yeah. So that to me was even like the first one was disgusting. The second
Mm-hmm.
one was like, again, every way she went about this. And that's why I don't let her take, because she tried real hard to take that excuse about, oh, I'm a taboo author, bitch, please.
This
You
isn't a
literally,
taboo author. This is a crossing
no,
the line, and adults need to walk in the room in Cole County.
every aspect of this book, you had an adult male who was looking at a child in a sexual way. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me.
And basically,
That
for
is
her
not.
whole life, you're telling me I'm supposed to find this story romantic where a grown man has been looking at a little girl her whole life in a
Yep.
very, very sexual way. And then when she's at age, it's like people can say, well, she waited till she was a woman and then tried to date her. I'm like, no, because this suggests
Yeah.
some grooming went on. Why is he
And
leaving her like that? That is not okay. You can't say, oh, it's okay. You
yep.
waited till they were legal to date them. Why were you
Yep.
looking at them that way when they were small? No.
Exactly. And the thing is, and I understand, because that is one of the taboo subjects, is age gap ends up in dark romance and taboo. And part of age gap is a lot of times, and it doesn't happen all the time, but there are some books that do, like the 16 or 17-year-olds who maybe are interested in somebody and then they grow up and they get involved with that person, right? It's never under 18, but it's never under, as far as I know, it's never under 17, but I have heard of one with 16.
There are
But
some. I actually have a book I have to review involving that, but I'm not getting
okay.
into that in this episode because that's us getting
Yeah.
further deeper into stuff because we're mostly focusing on her thing right now. But
But the thing is, there are age gap books
yeah.
where they do a little bit younger, but then it's like they do age it up because, again, they understand that you cannot. And by the way, usually in the age gaps, they usually have it a closer age together when they're older. So, like, he might be 40 and they might be 20 something. Like, that's kind of an age gap there.
Mm-hmm.
So, they don't. I have never seen a dark romance or a taboo author ever, and let me stress, ever do a book where they have an adult male who is looking at a child with romance. No, ma'am, no, ma'am,
An
no,
adult
ma'am.
looking at a child with romantic interest in
Yes.
general is no. And
Yeah.
we should probably mention that this author was arrested for
Okay.
this.
What happened was, rightfully so, Book Talk got pissed. Book Talk went after her like she was a piece of red meat and they were starving wolves. They went on her
Mm-hmm.
ass. They were calling her, and this wasn't just readers. This was readers, authors, narrators. This was everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody came for
Everybody
her
got the
ass.
torches and the pitchforks, and we're like, lady, we're coming for you. You do not do this.
Exactly. So then what she did is she started deleting stuff. Well, that didn't work. She pulled the book off. That didn't work. Then she tried to block people. That didn't work because lots of people were talking about it. So then, and again, this part, again, I'm not sure on who called what. It sounds like people called, because she's an Australian author, somebody either called the police there or they came upon it themselves, because Book Talk was, I think there were actually news articles about this too.
Yeah, there
So
were a
this
few.
was, there were some news articles. So somehow the police got involved and they arrested her. They arrested her for child p I believe something about like materials, writing, trying to sell those kind of materials, that kind of thing. And they
Mm-hmm.
arrested her. She is out on bail. Um and I believe she does have children. So it's just like, and I'm assuming, I'm going to assume that Australia has some kind of a DSH, I can't talk today, DHS, some kind of equivalent where they are looking at her hardcore, because between those dedications and just the book itself, like there needs to be a hard look at this chick. Like, and then, because I think people went to her other books and started noticing kind of some problematic stuff. So it's like, this is not the first time she had problematic stuff, but this definitely was the biggest one.
Yeah, and I'd like to also bring this up real quick. What the HE double hockey sticks was the publisher thinking?
Right.
Because she is, I believe, a traditionally published author. And this, I can't say, oh, this was an indie author and it just skirted through an Amazon or whoever didn't check. This, I believe, was a publishing house that published this book. I'm like, what was the publishing house thinking? What was the editor thinking when they edited it? What were the test readers thinking when they read this? Because with these books, a lot of people have eyes on it before it even ends up on the shelves or ends up being advertised. What were they thinking to allow something like this?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Because I'm reading a news article about it, and by the way, her real name. Because let's be clear, I don't give an F about exposing this woman, because this is just gross shit.
Oh, I'm not protecting her.
Lauren Teslin Mastrosa, who writes under the name Tori Woods, and let's see, because by the way, the way she tried to talk about this on Instagram was, it's a huge misunderstanding. It's not promoting or inciting anything with the P word. It's not.
How the man was looking at a 3-year-old. How do you?
I know.
You can't tell me a grown ass man was looking at a 3-year-old baby in a romantic like. And I'm not promoting this. What do you think that is?
Oh, and Crystal, there's a layer here that we haven't talked about, because I don't know if I mentioned this and you may not have heard it. So, by the way, the person who designed the cover, which was Georgia Stove, by the way, innocent victim in this, because she cut ties, because she did not. So she designed the book the way the author asked her to. She was not aware of what was in the book. She had not read the book. She didn't know. So that was, again, the author putting this poor cover artist, this poor woman makes, because people who make covers, they put their heart and soul into these covers sometimes.
Yeah, because
we just tell this author to use this cover, I feel so bad for her, because she's going to get some flack.
I feel people need to understand is we tell them how to make the cover.
Yes.
We don't always tell them what's in the book, and they don't usually ask. Nope. We can tell them what we want for the cover and what we needed to say, and they try to use their imagination and stuff to bring the theme from the name alone as best they can. They don't always know what the book is about. Yeah. And I would not, try to go after the cover artist, because the cover artist just does the artwork that is requested of them. They don't really know what's in the book.
And so what's interesting, the interesting part that we haven't talked about yet, is what her job was. Because, like I said, this blew up. So the Lauren Teslin Mastrosa, because let's put her name out there, Miss Tori Woods, she was a marketing executive at a Christian organization, Baptist Care. But they removed her real quick. They removed her. Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised they removed her. That goes against everything that's supposed to be representing them.
Right. But I think it's really interesting, because you're talking about, this is someone who has experience in the marketing field. She knows obviously she knows how to market, because she got people to read this piece of shit with the author and try to pretend it was taboo and shit. So, yeah. It's like, what you're a marketing executive, and for whether it's for a Christian organization or not, whatever it was, you are a marketing executive. Clearly you knew how to market this book, but I don't see how she sat there and she wrote this book and then didn't know that it was a terrible that, like, how do you not
To be
know?
honest with you, Mia, she probably didn't. Well, I'm not going to say didn't know. She more than likely did know exactly what she's doing. She probably has that mindset of when things like this happen to a child or a little girl or something, we're just supposed to go with the flow and accept it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, don't worry, this is okay.
Yeah. And it's like, and by the way, she is facing child abuse material charges. The
Good.
P word, which we can't say, claims. And so, which I am like, this is why I was saying when I did a video about this, good, good on Book Talk. There are times when I think Book Talk, there are times when there are various, like, people don't understand when you look at Book Talk, and hopefully, if you ever have questions about Book Talk, me and Crystal are both here to answer them. It is a
Yeah.
huge field, and there are different pockets of Book Talk. There's feral Book Talk, which, if you ever wonder there, don't go there unless you're 18 plus, please, please, and thank you. There's a lot of sections of Book Talk. There's a lot of places you can go for a lot of different things. And one of the things I was very proud of as a Book Talk person, as an author, is that Book Talk as a whole said, no, ma'am, like everybody was like, nope, no. You're not going to
Yeah.
use taboo. You're not going to hide behind dark romance. You are going to tell us why you wrote this piece of trash book about a adult male wanting a child, especially when she put it in the writing that he wanted, like, there were sexual overtones towards a 3-year-old.
Which
Three.
is wrong.
Oh my
I don't
God.
even have to say it's wrong. Basic common sense, especially for grown folk, it's wrong.
Yeah.
What did she expect? Did she expect to just make a huge profit off of that? And one argument I've been thinking about that I don't even want to hear. I don't want people saying, well, people do that in those anime cartoons all the time and nobody complains. Yes, we do.
Oh, and here's a
Nobody lets that
correction.
go. So don't
Here's a
say, well, one
correction.
popular meter does it and the other one can't.
Yeah. So here's a correction, because I just looked it up. Police received multiple complaints. So good on Book Talk. Book Talk
Yeah.
called their asses in. They said,
It looks
nope,
like
nope.
everybody called their asses in the book community in
Call
general.
them
Say no.
Popo. I mean, what was funny to me is one of the people I saw commenting on this was like, I don't even like Popo, by the way, is a slang term for police, if you don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
The chick was like, I don't even like the Popo, and I was ready to call them on this behalf. Like,
Yeah, really, with a lot of the book talkers I've been talking to, they sound like they want to call the police again, and I can't blame them.
right.
I
Especially
was
because
ready to call the cops.
I mean, she got released on bail. I mean, I don't feel bad for her at all, because you cannot tell me that as you sat down and I mean, as an author, we have to, and by the way, you'll hear this a lot in the future here. As authors, we have to sit down, we have to research what we like, what we talk about, what we write about. We have to research. Like, it doesn't matter what book you're writing, there is research involved. You need to look shit up. You need to
Yeah.
make sure you get shit right. So it's like, how
And
are
it's
you
not like
telling?
she did this in 5 minutes either. Books take a minute.
Yeah,
You have
yeah,
to sit with it and think about what you're writing before you even turn it over to your proofreaders and everybody else. You have to sit with it. You have to meditate on it. More than likely, you want to discuss stuff with people about it beforehand to see if something's going too far.
yeah. And this author, like, she's talking about the fact that the editor and the cover designer both didn't know. Okay, the cover designer for sure did not know. The
How did the editor
editor,
not know?
I have questions on that. I'm not going to say the editor is not. By the way, she deleted her social media, which, goodbye, bye, bitch, don't come back.
Yeah.
I How is he, like, editors? Here's the thing, editors usually read your books. Like, the job, if you don't know, if you're listening to us and you don't know what an editor does, an editor basically looks at, say I write a book or Crystal writes a book. The editor comes in, reads our book through, and maybe they might miss some content, but a lot of times, if it's a good editor, so I maybe have questions about how good they are, if it's a good editor, they will ask you questions. They will bring up like, oh, we saw this, maybe that, like, they'll go for the grammar, because you have technical editors, right? And maybe this was a
Yeah.
technical editor. You have technical editors who really just go for the grammar and spell check and all that kind of thing, right? There are developmental editors. Those are different. Those are people who go over the story, the plot. They make sure continuity, all that kind of thing, right? They make
Yeah.
sure A plus B equals C. So I'm hoping maybe this was just a technical editor who really didn't pay attention. They just kind of looked at the grammar,
Well,
because
once again, I still have questions with that editor.
yeah,
Either they were being slammed so much they weren't paying attention, to which I say, hun, still, you have to pay attention to these things.
yeah,
But it just feels
because
odd in general for an editor not to know. I mean, they
right,
do have to look at it.
and I
And, you
have
know, with something like
questions.
that, it saw the eyes probably of more than
Yeah.
one editor.
Well, and I have to say, I mean, maybe she didn't have beta readers. I don't know. Because again, I don't know about if the dedications were seen by whoever. Because again, the story is that she deleted the dedication, did another dedication, then deleted that one and tried to do another. Like, she was doing some hardcore editing as people started popping off at her, right? So I'm saying, like, I mean, I guess maybe she didn't have any beta readers. Beta readers provide feedback on a manuscript to help authors improve it. ARC readers get the early version of the book, but right before it's published. So, I mean, I guess there was no beta or ARC readers, because I don't see how anybody could sit down and read this book and be like, oh yeah, this is a great Taboo book. Because immediately, I'm telling you, there were lines pointed out in the book that basically, that the implication of he was looking at her since she was 3. The minute you read that, I don't care who you are as a reader, you need to like flag that. You need to get a neon sign. You need to be like, hey, I get you're writing a Taboo book, but this be gross. I don't know what
This
you're
is
doing.
wrong.
Gross. And that's why
Actually, I
the
would probably
editor,
send that after I called the cops.
right? And it's like the editor, okay, and I'm hoping, again, if it was a technical editor, and this is actually something I've heard some editors talk about, is some, especially like more technical editors, they'll get very focused on, like, they don't really read the plot per se. They just focus on the spell check, like the grammar errors and how things are supposed to be getting together. But I'm saying overall, as an editor, and I'm glad I don't know their name, because I would have some questions. I
I already
don't
do.
know. I don't know how you can read this book. I don't know how you can read this book and then not say, hey, wait a minute, this is not okay. This is
Hmm.
not acceptable. Like, I know you think you're writing a Taboo book, but this is just gross. This is gross. um
Yeah.
and so, and here, what's interesting is the cover designer. I just found a statement by her. She made an interesting statement about how she only knew about the blurb, which said barely legal. And so she had, by the way, she's getting threats, which I feel bad for her, because, okay, she saw the blurb. And here's the thing, barely illegal, when you look at, so people, and I don't know why people, well, no, I get why people are jumping on her, because here's the thing, when people see barely legal, like, immediately as a parent, your first thought is like, what are you doing, like, promoting that? But setting aside the parent and me aside, Taboo and dark romance, a lot of times they will touch on this barely legal subject, whereas somebody's 17 or maybe just 18, and that is barely legal. So I can see how again, I don't understand how the editor messed up, but I can see how the cover artist, just seeing the blurb, was like, oh, okay, so it's a taboo romance. And if you've seen the Taboo field, like, you're like, oh, okay, so maybe just turned 18, maybe 17. And that, I can see how she got, like, she didn't get it. Because if you're not reading the specific lines in the book that hint at this 3-year-old bullshit, then you don't know. So that's not the cover artist. And I hope, because she's saying she's getting threats over this, and I feel bad for her, because this is not her fault. She did not write
Yeah.
this book. She saw a blurb, she made a cover, she did not know what was in it. So you cannot be holding the cover artist responsible for the author. No, ma'am. This author needs to stand by herself in a court and explain herself, and then go right to jail, because she don't
Yeah.
need to
Go
pass
right to
go. She
jail.
don't need.
I don't even want her near a child, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's very disturbing to me that, like, you're gonna write this book, and then I mean, age gap, I'm not, and I'll be honest, personally, I am not a huge fan of age gaps. And I've said this before on Book Talk. I'm not
Yeah.
a huge fan of age gaps because I have seen authors, by the way, I've never seen it done this wrong. I will say that right now. I have never seen an age gap. I have never seen a dark romance. I have never seen a taboo author do this kind of a book this bad, where it was that much of it, like where it was that gross. Never seen it, because trust me, if I had, I would have said something. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little iffy on age gaps as it is, but then you're telling me you're going to try to pass off this adult male wanting that's not okay. Like, common
It's
sense,
not
like you said.
okay. And you got to even think about it, because I do like age gaps, but I only like it when it's two consenting adults.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like it when it's an adult plus child.
Yeah. And it's just, it's a little astounding to me that, like, you didn't understand that this was going to be a problem. Like, the minute I heard 3-year-old, I was like, oh, this is a problem. I don't need to know anything. All you need to tell me is 3-year-old, and I'm like, this is a problem. This
That's
is a
all
big
I heard,
problem.
and I was done.
Well, yeah, right. You don't need to explain shit to me. You say the word 3-year-old with romance, and I am getting out. I need a red band button.
I mean, this isn't one of those books where you have two kids in daycare and they're having their first crush that you would read to a little kid.
Mm-hmm,
This is
mm-hmm.
a crossing the line, I am about to smack somebody level
Exactly.
of wrong.
Exactly. Because I'm telling you right now, if I had somebody watching, like, who had a kid, and their kid's playing with my kid, and I see them looking at my 3-year-old like that, oh, first of all, we're never going back there again. Second of all, somebody might be getting punched because I ain't playing that game.
I was
And
thinking if they even
third,
survive. I'm like,
oh, hell
even if they
no.
even survive the whole interaction.
Right? Like, I'm going to be calling the police immediately and being like, I'm sorry, this person was kind of looking at my kid weird. Like, just think about it in real life terms. Like, if somebody was looking at your kid with that look and they have a kid of their own, what do you think as a parent? You're immediately like, gross. No, sir. I'm calling your wife. I'm calling your significant other, male, female, whatever. I'm calling everybody. I'm calling your mother, your father, the police, siblings, like, whoever phone number I have, I'm calling somebody, and I'm gonna be like, this person looks at my child in a weird ass way, and I'm a little concerned about them having children.
Yeah.
Just
because I am concerned for her kids now that this book has come out, because not look at her children the same way. The fact that she even wrote something like this and she is a mother, I am very concerned.
It is. It is very concerning. It is very just and I'm sure we'll talk about dark romance and taboo on here. And we're going to, by the way, as we go on, we're going to have authors pop up on here. We're going to have bookstore owners. We're going to have friends. We're going to have a lot of people pop up on here who will definitely talk about different subjects. And I'm sure we will come back to the dark romance, taboo fields.
We will, but even dark romance authors, they have a line they don't cross. Because I'll bring this up now. We actually, in group chats on TikTok, talk to a lot of dark romance authors about this, and they are livid. They are mad that this book was ever published, and they are ready to get at her. They are angry that she even made bail. So don't say dark romance authors defend this. Don't say dark romance is into this. They are not. These are some people I know have written some stuff, but even they say absolutely not.
I know splatterpunk gore authors who are fucking livid about like there is no author, because me and Crystal talk to a lot of different authors. There is no author or reader we have met who is not fucking livid about this, who was not disgusted. Like, and that's why I say, like, dark romance authors and taboo authors get a lot of unnecessary shit that they do not deserve. But this woman, that's why I said, when she was trying to be like, this is a misunderstanding. Poor me, I'm just a dark romance author. Bitch, please. No. Save your story for somebody who cares.
This is, you need to go to jail.
Yeah, this is not, when you write this type of book about children, and that's why I say, and I'm saying this in a video, if you are a dark romance or taboo author and you want to do a book that involves any kind of a child, you need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. But this isn't even be careful. This is just straight out, you crossed every line in the book. There is no good messaging. I don't know how she sat there and said, this is a misunderstanding. She literally, by the way, Crystal, she tried to say she was very sick at heart for people taking this wrong and that she would
Excuse
never
me?
endorse child pee.
Then why did you write what you wrote? If you're not trying
Exactly.
to endorse this, why are you writing something that is basically okaying it? Because you're telling me this
Yeah.
man has been leering at this child from when she was 3 to when she was legal. You have been telling me he's been eyeing her whole gosh darn life, possibly grooming her, which is not a good thing. But her
Yeah.
looking at her whole life that way, that is a problem.
That's a problem. Yeah. This book should have never been written. And I guess she has other books, but and I'm glad. Delete your socials, don't come back. Because if you are going, you sat there, because here, as an author, we take time to write our stuff. It may take weeks, we know some authors who can write shit in days. It may
Sometimes it
take
takes
weeks,
years.
right? It may take years to write a book, but like as you're writing it, you know what you're putting in there. Like you're like, and there are times I think that authors can miss stuff because we get so into the story that that's why we have sensitivity readers. That's why we have beta readers. That's why we have ARC readers. We have people who are supposed to check us and editors. And so, by the way, again, how this got past the editor, I'm not saying she should be blamed, but it's a little, I'm gonna be saying you were doing too much. Maybe
Yeah,
you
but I'm
paid too
still
much
curious
attention
why
to the
even.
spell words.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm even really curious why the publisher of all people let this pass.
well, I think wasn't this independently. Hold on.
Okay, I thought they said it.
Okay, so I was double checking our stuff, Crystal.
Uh-huh.
And so she was self-published. So there was no
Okay.
publisher.
Okay, I thought they said when I
Yeah.
first saw it was through a
I
publisher.
thought
I
I
must
saw
have
it too.
misinterpreted.
There was a lot, to be fair, there was a lot of angry people. So it's like you
Well,
can
that's
miss
true,
details.
especially our friends, because I've been in 3 TikTok lives. We were talking about it, and then when we stopped talking about it, one of our friends jumped into the live and started talking about it because they were pissed because they just found out and they were like, have you heard this? Have you heard this?
Right? So there was an interesting question posed by a newspaper that I thought we should take a few minutes on. And because evidently Australia has a history of book bans about different than old man book bans. That'll be another topic we talk about down the road.
Yeah.
But it said, can a novel be classified as child abuse material? And I think that, again, taboo and dark romance go into a lot of subjects. And I know we have an author friend who wrote it's a nonfiction. She wrote a nonfiction account of what happened to her as a child. And by the way, we're both very proud of her for doing this.
Yes.
And, we all very much support her. And so, but that was a nonfiction account. So that's obviously, and it was stuff that happened to her as a child. And that's that's an account of a personal nature. So I think in that case, that's always okay.
And
But I
she's not
think,
promoting it as okay.
no, definitely not. But in this case, you promoted this as a dark romance taboo. What I mean, I honestly don't know how she did just dark romance, because the subjects in here obviously age gap. Age gap is one of those that a lot of people instantly kind of shove over in taboo. So, but she advertised it as a romance novel. She advertised it, and I think in this case, again, we are not pro book banning here. We're not.
We're not.
There's gonna be an episode down the road with. So I think in this case though, because the way this book was written and the point of view she put in there, specifically the male point of view, looking at a child with those kinds of feelings, that's basically abuse material to me. That is not a book.
Yeah.
That is not a romance novel. That is not a fictional. That should not be a fictional thing. Because here's the thing. Fiction can have a lot of topics, and there are times when there are fiction novels that cover that kind of thing, but it's to show how terrible it is and to help with a character development. Like, oh, she had trauma when she was a child, and this is why she's having a hard time with relationships, or something to that effect. Or a male had issues when he was a child, and that's why he's having problems. A lot of times when this kind of past is put in there, it's to show trauma to a character and to say it's a bad thing. I don't think you should ever be writing a book where you normalize stuff that happen, any kind of feelings for a child, really under the age of 18, but like I guess
Yeah.
17 is kind of a issue that we'll talk about also.
17's we'll cross that line when we get to
we'll
there.
cross that. We'll get there. But I think that, especially when you specifically mention a child who's 3 years old, and then you specifically mention the male in question having feelings for her, that is a no. That is a no.
Mhm.
That is abuse material. That is not a book. That is not a fictional novel. That is not a ha-ha. It's whatever. That's not anything. That is abuse material. And how she wants to sit here and say, oh, I wasn't promoting. You did. You wrote
Very
it, you
much.
promoted it. No. So I think we're gonna take a pause here because lots of rage leaves you tired.
We need to breathe. We need to breathe. We need to give ourselves a moment because this made us mad.
So we're going to take a few minutes, and then when we come back, we will tell you where to find us. We'll talk a little bit about our next episode and all that fun kerbashal stuff. Okay. We're back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say our various places you can find us, and get if you get what we'll give you our names. It's easier to find us by our names. We will have links down below, and then we'll talk a little bit about what our next episode will be and kind of how we're going to have everything set up. So Crystal, if you want to go first.
Okay, everybody. I am author Madame Crystal Butterfly, and you can find my books on my website, Madame Crystal Butterfly, Amazon.com, and the Spine Bookshop. I write different fantasy stories, and if you love a little fantasy adventure, then I'm definitely the writer for you.
Love it. And I am Mia Hartney, and I also publish on Amazon, and I'm working on a website. I'll get to it.
She's working on some awesome stuff.
Through the Spine Bookshop too. And I write a little bit of everything. I'm a huge on the fantasy, and currently I have a Great Muses theory. I have a Dragon Shifter. I have a little bit of everything. So come find me at Mia Hartney on Amazon, or find lovely Madame Crystal Butterfly on Amazon, because we could tell you book titles, but half the time Amazon likes to hide us independent people. And trust me, we will have the Amazon episode. That's coming.
Oh, that's coming. Let's just say it's a boss we're not happy with.
Right. So our next episode will be, so what we're going to do with this podcast is we're going to have 2 episodes a week, hopefully. And we'll probably have clips and other stuff as we get, more down the road, more experience. Because obviously, first episode, we're a little rough. We're learning.
We'll figure it out.
We'll get to it. So right now, our next episode is going to be, so we're always going to do a book episode first and then a political episode, because we are not just authors. We are both women who are very concerned about the shit going down. And the person who shall not be named will definitely be mentioned. But we also understand that there are readers who don't necessarily want to get into all that. So that's why we're going to have a book episode about book topics, and then a politic episode about politics. And that way we keep everything separated. And so our next episode will be a doozy. We're going to be talking about, and actually it'll probably involve a few mentions of book talk because something came up there that applies to it. We're going to be talking about DEI.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, Crystal, and you brought this to my attention, so why don't you lead off with it?
Oh, you're talking about how, you had soldiers who fought for America, but because they are not white, then they apparently are allowed to have their grave markers removed and other signs of their presence removed from the what is that graveyard?
Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah. So they're not allowed to be in Arlington National Cemetery. Apparently, you're only allowed to be in Arlington National Cemetery now if you're white and you have something dangling between your legs.
If you're a white old guy there,
we're very upset about this.
It's not okay. And they basically, what happened is when this DEI bullshit kicked in, they started erasing stuff on websites. And actually, one of the things I heard about, you heard about the stuff on the website for the Black and Latino fighters.
Yeah,
I heard about the Tuskegee. Was it the Tuskegee? I always pronounce it right. I always pronounce it wrong. The Tuskegee Airmen, which
Tuskegee
was
Airmen.
yes, there we go. I knew I was saying it wrong. And these were Black airmen who fought for our country and deserve not just honor and respect, but there's movies, there's books, because the government had already tried to hide this shit because, racism be racism in this country. So the fact that this stuff was also, they tried to wipe out how do you say it, Crystal?
Tuskegee.
Tuskegee. I will learn. I will figure the Tuskegee Airmen. They tried to erase them too. Yep.
These people are tiresome.
They are. And we'll go into DEI, because I think part of the problem with DEI is certain people thought it only had to do with certain things, and it was not what they thought. And so we're going to talk about.
We're going to talk about that.
Yes.
We're going to have a nice conversation about that.
Oh man, nice conversation. And I will warn you guys, our politics episodes are going to be very fired up. And we may have one subject, we may have two subjects, we may have 50 subjects, because there is so much out there. And also, as a bonus on because this is something I've talked about on Book Talk a lot, is people have a hard time finding stuff online to know what's going on. So on our political episodes, we will be linking to progressive networks and other places where you can find information to read up. If you want to know the knowledge, we have the knowledge. We are all about sharing, promoting, and making sure that this stuff does not get ignored.
Yeah, we'll bring it to light.
And trust me, we will also have a woman episode too. We are. Honestly, that should be our first one, but I think the DEI stuff is just so rampant right now that we have to talk about it.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about that, but
yeah.
We'll get to it when we get to those episodes. You guys are going to have a lot of really exciting stuff on this channel to hear about.
We do. We are two lovely authors who like to talk a lot. We have very interesting backgrounds, the both of us, and we are here to I love history. You'll know that about me. You'll find out real quick. I'm a history girl. And you have my lovely co-host over here who basically brags about Ghana chocolate and doesn't share any. We'll talk about it.
It's so mad that I did not send you any Ghana chocolate.
So lack of sharing, can we talk about? Okay, we're gonna have an episode on sharing too.
Yes, we'll share from miles away.
Look, you can learn anyways. We'll talk. Well, it's very, politics, books, whatever. I'm more upset about the lack of chocolate. Okay, you guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We love, if you want to get down there and comment, go ahead, knock yourself out. I will warn you now. If you are here because you are, let's say you go into our politic episode and you want to have some commentary. We love commentary, by the way. But if you're going to come on there and troll, just be aware, we don't mind trolls either, but we will stuff you under bridges and lock the key. So.
They'll hold me stuff them under a bridge.
Right. But thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful day. And remember to read books. And remember to brainwash your children to read books. And brainwash your friends. And brainwash your family.
Yes, read books while you get to enjoy nice chocolate. Like Ghanaian chocolate, which is fabulous.
Hey, look, I'm still mad you didn't share. But anyways, love you guys. Thank you so much.